Last one of the day.
Welcome back. We've been recording
We
and
marathon
recording.
this.
And
That's probably what we didn't even change our shirts this time. We tried to change the shirt so it
No,
looks like
yeah,
it's
we
different days.
didn't.
We should probably do that actually.
Oh my gosh, you want to hear a funny story?
What?
I ordered something. I made a mistake. I tried to order these little like lamps that you charge them and you put them on.
Oh, I saw them on Amazon.
Yeah, and they're magnets. You can like take them. They looked really cute. It was like a soft glow. I got them from Temu.
Yeah.
My son's like, "Why are you so ordering
You and
shit
my
from
husband from
Temu?"
Temu, man. It's
Like,
ridiculous.
I was like,
You're
I got suckered in.
disappointed
They
every
look-
time.
Yeah, so it didn't come. It was plastic. Not even looked good with. They looked like air traffic control lights. They're bright and they strobe.
You know, I love me some TikTok shop, but if you need to return something from TikTok shop,
Never.
or if you never received it and you're trying to like say, hey,
This is yet another reason TikTok ain't for me.
Oh, it's really difficult. It's not Amazon where you just take it to Kohl's.
Or Whole Foods. Okay, so today we're talking rise of the armchair diagnosis. So why everybody thinks something is wrong with me and everybody around me.
And I don't know about you, but I spend 80% of my time telling people that what they think is wrong is not wrong.
Yes.
What they think they have, they do not have. And what they think everyone around them has, they do not have.
Yeah, like I saw the sticker the other day and it was like, not diagnosed, but something, right?
Well, I feel like that's right. I feel like we could all put that one on our car. Or I can wear that as a t-shirt.
But that doesn't mean you need a diagnosis. Something still
Right.
can be not right. That doesn't mean you need a
Right.
diagnosis. And so I think what happened, like, you know, with the internet and our like
Yes.
access to information, it goes from like, we went from here's some info about what you're going through to like, here's your diagnosis.
Here's a survey that you can take, which was always just supposed to be able to suss out some patterns, turned into like, take the survey and we will absolutely diagnose you with whatever the survey is trying to find.
Yeah. And then you see this stuff and it's like, if you rewatch Saved by the Bell and drink Red Bull room temperature, you may have dun dun dun.
It does. It really does feel like-
neurodivergency. And you're like, what?
And then you get to a certain age where I am, where it's like, you could diagnose yourself with almost anything because there's been a good amount of time that I have access to in my memory where I'm like, I did do that. I did that a couple times. I went there. I've done that. I've cried like that. Well, yeah, because there's been experiences behind it, but does not always mean. I want to go back to the old days of the DSM where it was like,
Yes.
see, I didn't even have to say it further. Like, you're like, yes. Yeah, it's because back in the day, not that anybody
What's
really
your
cares.
GAF? What's your GAF score?
Seriously.
Is that
There are days where we just had specific ways to diagnose. They weren't even that complicated, right? There was axes. You had to go through all the
I miss
axes and you had to like
axes.
diagnose. But the best thing about the DSM, it still exists, but we don't look at it like we used to. But it was very pattern based and you had to have experienced or exhibited this pattern for a specifically amount of time.
you have to say yes to a certain amount of these for a certain
Yes.
specific period of time. Like, you know, we're at a phase where I feel like mouth breathing might qualify you for a psych eval.
Sleep apnea.
You know what I mean?
You have sleep apnea, you also have some sort of disorder. Like that's where people are at. Yeah.
100%. Everyone has a diagnosis.
Yes.
Everyone.
Yes.
Like everyone, your ex is a narcissist. Your mom is a borderline. That is true.
Yes.
Your situationship is avoidant attachment.
Right. You have an attachment disorder. And here's the sad part, which is a little bit detriment to our field, is that you could go to a different therapist 1 year, get one diagnosis, go to another therapist a year and a half later because you want to check in again with someone new. It's a totally different diagnosis. Like so by the time you've seen maybe 5 therapists in 25 years, you may have 5 different diagnoses. And that makes a person feel very confused.
You thought you lost track of time? You ADHD. Like, it's just, yeah. So I just want to clarify, this episode is not mental illness is not real.
No.
That is not what we were saying. And you know what? I have to say, if that's what this episode was about, that'd be a weird take for 2 therapists to offer publicly.
Yeah, really.
So that's not what this is. What this episode is about is why people love a diagnosis. They want clarity. They want certainty. Explanations are normal. But the problem is when normal human struggle becomes rigid and like pathology, when maybe we just being a human being.
Right. And that we change. Things change. We react to things differently. We have hormonal changes. Like we change. And that doesn't always mean it's a mental health issue or a mental health diagnosis, because sometimes it is a mental health issue.
Yes. So why does this happen? Why are people like, you have a diagnosis? I have that too. You anxiously attach? Yes. Yeah, I have sensory processing disorder also. What? Because life is freaking hard. People be dysregulated.
More so now than ever before, I
Yes.
feel.
People are overstimulated.
Mhm.
They're isolated. They're burned out. They're stressed out.
Broke everything.
Yeah. And TikTok rolls in and is like, sounds like it might be a personality disorder. People are desperate for meaning.
Yeah. Ooh, flip.
Girl, what?
I'm whipping you with that thing.
Do you have ADHD?
I mean, it's questionable.
Do you have ODD? You kicking? Sidebar on a kicking.
Yes.
I saw a little video of a honey badger. You know honey badger?
Yeah.
Okay. That they like give no fucks, honey badger.
I mean, I don't know that I knew that much about
Oh
honey
my God.
badger.
Honey badger doesn't give a shit. That was my sidebar.
Okay.
But people are desperate for meaning. I think that is like universally true.
Is
We
it
like to
meaning,
know
though, or is
why.
it-
A lot of times meaning is subjective. So if you give me an explanation, as I said to you in the last episode, then you give me the explanation and then my brain will attach meaning to it. I'm going to make some meaning out of that, which that part is subjective.
Because we did a whole episode on like make it make sense. And I think that's where people are right now. It's like, make me make sense by telling me what's wrong with me.
So give me anything that I can make meaning about, right? So diagnosis can feel, I think for a lot of people, like relief. It's a way to explain pain. And this definition I thought was really good. It gives shape to suffering.
Yes.
And suffering is something that feels like I can't put my hands on it. Like a broken leg I can see. That's easier to understand. But emotional pain is so ambiguous. And so it gives some kind of shape to suffering and pain.
You know, the whole reason you go to the doctors is because you're like, I have this issue and I want you to tell me what it is. And then I want you to tell me how you're going to fix it.
Yeah.
And mental health is no different. You go to therapists or psychiatrists, you say, this is how I act or this is how I feel. And I want you to tell me what it is and I want you to fix it. And I think that's fair. I think that's where everybody operates from. It's just, this just doesn't work exactly like that, right? It's not like strep throat. It's not like the flu. It just doesn't work that way because there's so many intricate layers as to why you're feeling the way you're feeling.
Yeah. And diagnosis can reduce confusion. And a big one is it can offer belonging. There's a lot of community around having a diagnosis. And so it makes sense why it is appealing to people. Right.
Yeah.
So we're going to tell you, what does it look like in the wild? TikTok, if you do these 5 things, if you prepare conversations in advance, anxiety.
Which is so silly, right?
It really is.
Of course I'm going to think about what I want to say to you before I say it. Of course. Isn't that something you would tell me I should do? Is like, hey, you want to have a big conversation with somebody? Think it through before you say it. I tell my husband that all the time. Think it through a little more before you say it.
It doesn't mean if you prepare a conversation in advance, that does not mean you have generalized anxiety disorder, Tiffany. Welcome to Earth. It just means that you're thoughtful and considerate about what you say.
That's right.
And the internet loves pathology and loves things that feel definitive. And we're going to say this on something that's going to ride on an algorithm and know that we even have to be mindful about what the titles of our episodes are, because nuance does not go viral at all. When you make claims like these 5 tips will heal everything, these 3 signs, the algorithm rewards certainty.
Yes.
It rewards it. So it doesn't mean it's not out there in the internet ether nuance. It's just not going viral. But like 2 tips you may be getting divorced. That is 3 signs you definitely have ADHD. That is. The algorithm nuance does not go viral. Yeah. It just doesn't. Yeah. So that's why the internet is such a large component of why there is like this, tick in getting diagnoses.
Yeah.
Attachment styles become astrology. He didn't text back in 6 hours, so he's a classic avoidant.
Yes. People are very into the attachment.
Classic avoidant. He might just be lost at Costco, girl.
Right.
So attachment styles are like the new buzzword, classic avoidance.
People are really into those
because they give us certainty.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
they're like, it wasn't, he's an avoidant. That's why it didn't work out.
Right.
Yeah.
It's giving narcissist disorder diagnosis. 100%. It's giving that everybody has narcissist. Like everyone I've dated is a narcissist. Like it's giving that 100%. Vibe. Yeah.
Yeah. So attachment styles then similar to like, are you a Libra? Yeah, we're never going to get along. It gets used as
that makes more sense to me, though. I feel like I'm more
starting to
comfortable
go there,
though.
Doing
that.
But we starting to go with attachment styles. Like you secure, we ain't never going to be friends. It gets used as like prediction and explanation and identity. Like you just an avoidant. That's what. Do you know there's a website called Are We Dating the Same Person?
Yes, I do know that.
Where you like upload stories about someone and you're like, they're a classic avoid. They're the worst. And it becomes like that person's whole identity. And sometimes they are the worst.
Right. Sometimes they are.
Sometimes they are.
I mean, I understand the premise of that was to begin with was to stop the dating other people's husbands or wives, right? It was like,
Yeah.
are we dating the same person? Because I want to know if this person is dating serial people or if they're dating,
Sure.
or if they have a married, they're in a marriage or whatever. But if it was just to post
that you had a
shit
bad
about
experience
people,
with somebody, unless it's a
right.
safety issue, what are we doing? Like,
Yes. If that person is out drugging people at bars, absolutely. But call the
100%.
police, please, also with that. But if you're just like, he's a narcissist, like that's your perception and you have every right to it. But that's a diagnosis that you're putting out there that isn't probably not 100% valid.
This section is called It's Not a Disorder.
What is not a disorder? I can't
So it's kind of like stress is not the same thing as trauma.
Yeah.
Okay? It's not. Stress can be an aspect of trauma, but just because you're stressed out does not mean, like when people throw the word around, I was traumatized.
Yeah.
Like that is rough. That's
It
rough.
is rough. It's rough. And we're going to sound a little bit kind of boomerish when we talk about this stuff, but please keep in mind we are therapists that have.
Speak for yourself.
So, no. In terms of how we're going to sound. Stick with me. I'm going to explain.
Is that a boomer take?
Here's where it's coming. So we have had many, 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 many years in counseling people. And so when we say this, it is going to sound a little bit like, oh, you guys are all just, diagnosing and saying all these words and you need to like stop using these excuses. That's not what we're coming for or what our perspective is. But to Kate's point, everything can't be a trigger. Like every single thing, you're triggering me, you're triggering me, you're triggering me. Like that word is being used as almost like a defense mechanism or a weapon of some sort.
It's weaponizing.
Like everything
clinical terminology.
like you can't just keep saying, my boss is triggering me, my coworker is triggering me because they're expecting me to do certain things. So stress is stressful and you are allowed to react to stress. But Kate's point is stress does not equal post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yes.
And that is absolutely true.
And one of our very first episodes, we go over therapy buzzwords and how they are misused.
Yeah.
That would go very well if you are enjoying this episode.
Yeah.
Folding clothes a certain way doesn't mean you have OCD.
You do not have OCD.
Okay.
Lots of things don't mean you have OCD. If you like your pantry a particular way, if you buy the little bins and you put the little things in,
I got the little bins.
Yes, that's fine. Does not mean you have OCD.
No.
If you like to go to bed at night and it stresses you out in the morning if you have dishes in the sink, so you do the dishes even if it's 11 o'clock at night, you do not have OCD. There are so many things we can absolve you of. If you like your house a certain way, if you want your shoes in a particular bin, that's not OCD. Trust me, when you see real obsessive compulsive disorder, we would have people not saying OCD.
Yeah, and notice in this section, we are not saying, and here's what it does look like if you have OCD.
Right.
If you think that you have a legitimate diagnosis, please go see a professional. It could be any of us in a professional capacity, not on a podcast, and get a diagnosis. So we're not going to go through all
what
the criteria.
Would it be?
Having a planner doesn't mean you have anxiety.
Nope.
Okay. If you need alone time after social stuff, that does not mean you're avoidant. It might just mean, congratulations, you're a mammal who tired.
Right.
Comfy clothes and a weighted blanket does nay a sensory processing disorder make.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Wanting a reply to a text doesn't mean you have anxious attachment. It just means that's just being alive in the year of our Lord 2026. Okay. It'd be rough out here.
It's rough out here.
It really is.
And I wonder too if that maybe has not been taken into the equation as like the amount of stress, the amount that social media has changed us, now the amount that AI is taking over both in access to information and the stress of what it's going to do to careers and workplace. Like the diagnoses of the past have not caught up with any of this. Like I still think there might be some sort of term that is post-COVID. Because there are some people who just never really mentally recovered from COVID for whatever reasons, whether they had COVID, whether they were so anxious during COVID, whether they got so angry during COVID, whether they were the anti-COVID, whoever. But there was definitely something that happened to us because we lived through it, changed and has not, the mental health diagnosis has not caught up with that.
Yeah. And the one I can think of, which we use is like adjustment disorder, which I like because it's like a much better.
It's my favorite.
It's my favorite one.
Diagnosis.
When I worked with when I did like child and adolescent mental health, that was like the one we used all the time.
Because
like anytime someone came in
safer.
for an eval, that is like the preliminary diagnosis that they got. And then it was like rolled out.
Yes.
So it's not a disorder. Before we go on to the next section of like why this is a risky thing if everything becomes a disorder. So when my son was in first grade, I went to his parent-teacher conference. I think it was like the second one. And The teacher looks at me and she goes, is he diagnosed ADHD? And I just look at her and said, no. She was like, well, and I was like, here we go, Karen, here we go. And at the time I worked at like a special education school. So I was like
Okay.
feeling a lot of kinds of ways. And I worked in emotional support with kids that had ADHD. She goes, because it just really, and she goes, there's another kid in our class and he got put on medication. And let me just tell you, he is a totally different kid. I'm going to tell you what I gave her the what for. I
Okay,
had my
she got
glasses
the
on.
what
I took
for.
them off and I'm going to tell you what I said to her.
When you
I was about to cry when she said that. So I looked at her in the eye and I just said, listen, I don't want a totally different kid. I want exactly the kid that I have. And if that means more work for you and I, then that's what it means.
Okay.
We're going to get this fidget stuff.
Yep.
We had all kinds of stuff. And what I said, it was just so sad to me that like he was 7 years old. So it's like,
goodness.
you can't suss out what is like age appropriate behavior
Right.
and what is a diagnosis also.
Correct.
Right. And I think that happens in teenagers too. We're like, oh, you're bad. You're bipolar. Like,
Yes.
I don't know if you are because you have raging hormones. So it might be age appropriate. So my line in the sand was, if it gets to a point where it's impacting him academically, we will revisit that. That happened at the end of 4th grade. He was on medication 5th grade, 6th grade. He didn't like it, came off of it, and has never been on it since. And he has learned his own behavioral interventions to manage his ADHD. Just wanted to sidebar on like, not everything is a diagnosis.
And again, the whole point is that had a name never been thrown out there, right, he still would have figured out how to do the physical changes, the behavioral changes, the self-regulation, the things, the emotional regulation that is necessary. So again, would it have changed any of that if he never had any type of diagnosis? No. Now, oftentimes people will argue we need the diagnoses for resources. Totally understand
with
that.
kids,
Totally understand that.
1000%. We don't, neither one of us
We don't work with kids.
with kids.
Yeah.
I have like a couple of adolescents, but with kids, yes, you need a diagnosis to have access to services. As an adult, I say like, if you suspect you do, treat it yourself as if, go see a doctor if you feel like you need a diagnosis.
Yeah.
So the risk with everything as a diagnosis is that some of these mental health conditions, a lot of them, quite frankly, are debilitating and severe. Okay. Autism is a very complex neurodevelopmental condition. These are not quirky identities because you bought 3 water bottles and you hate fluorescent lighting and you don't like the texture of that sweater. These are real things that people live with that can be absolutely debilitating. And then if everything is trauma, what does trauma even mean anymore?
Exactly.
Like, especially for folks that meet clinical criteria for that.
Yeah. And again, I'm fearing it's going to sound a little boomerish when I say this. No offense to any boomers that may listen to us, Mom. But there is an argument that because we are jumping to all of these diagnoses and, some of the heavier ones that when people are in the workplace, they're decompensating because they believe they cannot handle because of these diagnoses. And that's not true. Therapy wouldn't even work if we believed that once you got this diagnosis, we just couldn't get you better and able to function. So for people who are saying, well, my college kid, they have depression, they can't make it to their classes. The goal is always to get them to make it to their class. The goal is to get them stable enough and functioning well enough to get them to their classes. So the goal is never to slap a diagnosis on somebody to have it be the reason they cannot function. So that's where it gets so dangerous when we throw up all these things and we're self-diagnosing. Again, we're talking about when you're self-diagnosing, well, I have anxiety disorder, so I can't go to work today. Well, that would never be what we would want for you. We would want to work through the anxiety and give you tools to be able to get to work so that you could function in a job. So self-diagnosing and then using these as an outlet for why I cannot function is not where we want to go.
Yeah, a justification. So the easiest way to think about kind of what Nina is saying is a diagnosis is not a finish line. It is a starting line.
Yes.
It is not a finish line. If you treat it as such, we need to work on that. It should be a starting line of like, now I got this. Where do we go?
It's not
from
where we
here?
stop. We don't
Correct.
say, I got this diagnosis.
It is not the finish line. It is the starting line. And I think the other risk is you lose resilience language and nuance. Going back to that is like everything becomes black and white. So there's no nuance. There's no like a little bit of this. I'm either like personality disorder or I don't.
Right.
I do or I don't. Right.
That's like my husband the one day, I think I told you this, had the nerve to walk into the kitchen at one point in time and
It's
was
the
like,
audacity.
it's the
for
audacity
me.
for this comment. Cause he, I don't know what we're talking about. We were talking about him not wanting to do or go somewhere. And he's like, maybe I'm an introvert. And I was like, what the ever-loving hell? There is not a more extroverted person on the face of this planet, I am sure, than that man. But he like self-diagnosed as an introvert. And when I said, I was like, that is just beyond not true. He's like, really? No, I think maybe I could be because introverts. Yeah.
He needs to listen to this podcast.
He did. He owns it now because we chatted about it.
He was like, I'm married to a therapist, therefore I can self-diagnose by osmosis.
Oh my God. And he would have walked around. He would have walked around before. Well,
I'm an introvert now.
Yes. And then I think he repeated it to somebody else. And they were like, what did you say? The self-diagnosis runs deep for everyone.
Yeah. And to your point, like that example is a great example of like we lose touch with what is a normal range of human emotion.
Yes.
You can be an extroverted person and have a day or a moment where you ain't into it. That is a normal range of human emotion. It doesn't mean you're an introvert.
Same for us introverts. We can want to go out. We do get to a place every once in a while where we're like, damn, I got to get out of this house, right? But then that's enough for like.
We actually speak for yourself.
You get out.
I do get out.
You do
like
get out.
Not willingly, really though.
Really.
But then the other risk is we're constantly self-monitoring.
Yeah.
Like, what does this say about me?
I think we've become our own therapists.
Or worse.
But like the
AI
diagnosing thing. Yeah.
I will say I've tested it.
Josie.
Well, I've tested it. Yeah, I'll throw some
Yeah.
stuff in there and try to like egg her on to get her. And she
See what
will
she
say
says.
like, I can't diagnose, but
And, you know, ChatGPT or Claude, if you're looking for any therapist to give you some advice on how to make sure that AI stays safe for mental health, we're always available. But yes, I have tried it too. I have given it symptoms and suggestions and try to see.
I've
And
thrown
for
out
the
the
most
bait.
part, I'm not horrified by what I get back. It is a lot of times things that we would suggest people do in terms of healthy coping skills or outlets. It does tell you to go seek counseling or not seek counseling, but go get a professional opinion.
Yes.
So I mean, that's not terrible, but I think we have become our own like diagnostic therapists. We read something and then we're like, that's what I have. I totally have that. And then 20 minutes later, I read something different. I totally have that also.
And I think that can take away from it. Like, I don't know. So it was probably, let me think now. Let me do a little math. Like 12 years ago, it's longer than that, like 13 years ago, around the time I graduated grad school, I had a lot of health issues and I got diagnosed with this genetic condition that I could not possibly believe that I had had. I'd never heard of it in my life. So I got diagnosed with this thing. And then I went and saw like the expert on it at Johns Hopkins. I was like, if anyone's going to tell me I have that, it's going to be this guy. This guy did, in fact, tell me I had it. But this particular diagnosis that I have has become very, very, like, I hate saying it, but it's like trendy and popular.
Okay.
People are like, I have Ehlers-Danlos. Ehlers-Danlos is an inherited connective tissue disorder. You need to be diagnosed, and people self-diagnose with them all the time. And I can tell you, yes.
Wow, I wouldn't have even heard it before you.
Yeah, like, oh, I can do this with my arms. And I'm not knocking people that don't have it. I'm just saying, as someone that was legitimately like diagnosed with it, when I hear that, it feels so invalidating to me.
I can understand
like it feels
that.
so invalidating to me. So that's kind of what I'm saying. That's another like risk with this, is that like it takes away from the people that are really struggling with it.
I think a lot of people who've been diagnosed, appropriately so, with mental health disorders feel the same way.
Yes.
The term bipolar is used to just describe somebody being moody
Someone's
today.
behavior,
and somebody who's diagnosed with bipolar disorder is like, okay, that's like
it is
bipolar.
Bipolar can be absolutely debilitating for people. And that's
even
kind of
true
what we're
depressive
saying.
disorders, like true depressive disorder. People walking around going, oh, I'm so depressed. And people with depressive disorders like, your depression and my depression clearly are not the same, because I would not be walking around at the mall going, I'm so depressed. Right. So it's very different. And yes, you're right. I think, I think mental health now, some of it has just become adjectives.
Yes, 100%. So something can be real and painful and important and valid without it being a disorder. When struggle becomes pathology, you start seeing yourself as broken and needing, to your point, like if my leg is broken, I go to a doctor. I'm like, okay, it's broken. What are we going to do to fix it?
Right.
Like, so when we pathologize just like normal day-to-day human being struggle, the implication is this shouldn't be happening and it's broken and you need to fix it.
Yeah.
And, it should feel freeing that it's not a diagnosis, because you don't need to be solved. It means you're not broken. We don't have to fix you. Hey, that's good news. It's one less thing, 10 less things that I have to do
today. If you're
today.
nervous, doesn't always mean you have anxiety disorder. And that's a fantastic thing. If you get nervous or you've got some racing thoughts or you're worried about something, not an anxiety disorder does that make. And that's a good thing.
Yeah. And you could just be grieving. You could just be exhausted, lonely, overwhelmed. Healing sometimes feels like shit.
Yes, it does.
Right? So don't confuse this explains me with this is me. Because a lot of times if we check in with ourselves, really what can solve the majority of our problem today is some hydration and a nap.
And some food sometimes.
And a snack.
Yeah. I think the important tip for that, like you just said, is the check-in and we talk about this often, is the what, not the why. So if you are feeling a particular type of way, like depressed or anxious, what is contributing to me feeling anxious right now? And sometimes if there's a concrete answer there, that's your answer to the emotion that you're feeling. And so it's not a big diagnosis. It's not anxiety disorder. It's not depression. What is making me feel depressed right now? I don't have enough money. I'm working my butt off. I still can't make my rent. Okay, that's fair. That is a very down feeling. That's a lot of stress. Valid. Doesn't necessarily mean we have a diagnosable depressive disorder, but it is definitely reasons for feeling down. Makes sense.
Yeah, that sounds hard. That's a human struggle.
Yes.
Humans be struggling. Yep, that's a normal thing that humans experience struggle.
Just validate those feelings. Yeah.
The feelings are valid. Yeah, girl.
Okay. All right. So feel free to check us out on YouTube, on Podbean, on Apple, and on Spotify, or you can email us and check out our website at the Norley. There you go. I mean,
Narwhal. Mr. Narwhal.
The Nearly Normal Podcast.com.
And until next time, stay hydrated and nearly normal.